it's clearly a tragic situation. We saw, the news come in over a couple of hours that Charlie had been shot. It was his condition was unknown for a while. It actually looked like for a bit he was, going to be in the hospital and potentially stable-ish, obviously in critical condition. And then, the news came out that he had died. It's clearly a tragedy, you know, for everyone involved with Turning Point. He's the founder and figurehead of the organization. But it's also, a tragedy more broadly for the nation that we live in a society where someone who really devotes his life to just going and having conversations with people, traveling around the country and saying, here's a microphone, let's talk, where even something as kind of respectable and noble as that has escalated to the point where political assassination is the result.
Mean, you are a member of Turning Point, right? And so, obviously his message must have stuck with you. I guess I'm wondering too, if you could maybe go into like personally, like how his, what you thought of him and just kind of what his, message was that you resonated with.
I've never had a chance to, interact with him extensively at a personal level. I've met him a couple of times, very, very briefly, gotten to shake his hand or get a photo, but never had a chance to talk to him in person. But one of the clips that really sticks out to me is from quite early in his career. And he was on a college campus, and it didn't look anything like the events of today. There was no crowd. It was, him at a table, no branding, no barriers, nothing. It was early in his career. And someone, came up to him and said, "What are you doing here? Why are you doing this? I don't like you. I don't agree with you. Why are you here?" And Charlie's response was, because when society stopped talking, that's when wars happen. That's when conflict happens. And that's really destructive. And, Charlie was clearly had conviction in his beliefs and was very, very willing to, represent what he believed. But more than anything, he stood for continuing that dialogue, at a public level.
You guys said that you're planning a vigil for Charlie Kirk
That's
tonight.
correct.
Can you tell me more about that?
So we are going to be in outside Wells Hall here on Michigan State University's campus. Actually the same place where Charlie spoke on campus just a few months ago, back in April. And it's really an opportunity for, a community who's been impacted by him in one way or another, who's believes he's done some good and impacted their lives, to come together, mourn his death, pay respects to the work he's done, and, with any hope, have some renewed motivation and inspiration to go out and continue spreading the message he worked so hard.
What's kind of your take on this moment and what's political violence?
I mean, it's a difficult situation to balance, and not because political violence is ever acceptable. It's clearly not. Um, I would have the exact same response if it was someone I disagreed with, that this behavior is just not acceptable under any circumstances. But what I find challenging to balance is, on the one hand, the only person to ever be blamed for a horrible action like a shooting is the shooter. That's the only person who can be blamed. But I do think when we consistently escalate the political rhetoric, when we consistently, address people like Charlie, not as if they're someone we disagree with, but as if they're, the worst dictators in the world, a society that continues to escalate the rhetoric, we can't entirely act surprised when eventually tragic things happen. And so, that is no one's fault, but the person ultimately responsible, the shooter. But I do think, like, it's a moment for self-reflection as a society on how we have political discourse.